You notice how it didn't start when you had a drink in your mouth, like we did last week? Continuity. Hi, welcome back to Nocritsg, the UK's newest and freshest podcast that talks about all things Dungeons and Dragons. This is my good friend Joe.
Hello there.
My name is Ben. I didn't forget to do introductions this week. Welcome back to the podcast, I go, like, honestly. How are you, sir?
Yes, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. Bit of a mental week.
It's been a strange one.
With the whole, obviously, big week where we work. Nobody needs to know where or why.
No,
because... yeah, we're elusive and mysterious. It's really boring.
Yeah, that's
really,
more the actual point.
Yeah, it's just a really boring place to... I've just noticed, and this is going to stay in, my chair's quite low.
Low?
There you go. Oh, joined up on your level now. He weren't going to mention that, was he? It's like that bit in the IT crowd where she's got the big chair. And if not, why not? This has started well. This week we are going to talk about things to remember, things to keep in mind, things to sort of do when joining a new group. Whether that's forming a new group or just joining one. Yeah,
these are all sort of things that we've kind of... Well, these 5 things that we've picked up on. The campaign that we're currently running is a mishmash of people that know each other, people that don't know each other. These was just some experiences that we've come across with that group dynamic of some people being new to each other, things that we've faced and had to sort of maybe broach or find ways around it.
Not only being new to each other, but new to the game.
Yeah.
So a good few of us, I mean, one of us had never even opened a book and looked at it before, never even broached the subject, but just heard about it, liked it, fancied it, so came along, and to be fair, he loves it now.
Yeah, he does.
But yes, you think. Before we jump in, please, we say it every week, but I'm going to say it again this week, check out our TikToks. We have the official Nocritsg TikTok, which I'm aware has been a bit lax, but given our camera issues over the last couple of weeks, and our actual proper gameplay group has had a couple of weeks off, so there's not been anything over on the Instagram either, some pictures from our gameplay, so that's all going to come. We are playing again later, so we'll get some more screenshots out to you.
And I'm going to try and be a bit more active on TikTok as well. I've taken a bit of a break off and calling it like my writer's block that I've had.
I think it's important. Let's just take a minute to talk about well-being. Let's not. Let's just say it's important to take your time. There's no point feeling the pressure of putting content out.
No.
We put content out every week on our main channel because we like it. We enjoy it and we like talking to you guys. So, yeah. Wow. It's good. What a great episode we've started with.
I know.
What a great... We've spoken about well-being. Oh, I'm not even going to list it. You just watch it back. I'm loving this episode already.
I think it's good.
Should we dive in before
Let's
I start rambling on?
Number one. Number one. So, every group is different.
Every group is different.
This is experience that I think I pick up from our group. And it's probably going to apply to any group, actually, whether it's a new group or a group of people that you know. Everyone is a different person. We all have different ways of behaving, different ways of interpreting things, we all like things done in our own certain way to a point. And it's important to remember that the people you sat around with in your party, within your group, all have different ways of operating and ways that they like things. I think it's kind of just wanting to treat someone as you'd want to be treated kind of thing. I'm well aware that when we're playing our games, I probably do things in a certain manner that other people don't like.
I think it's very important because, especially if, like we said about our group, we had, and now I'm not saying I'm the centre of our group, held at my house, our gaming area is at my, anyway, but I was friends with everybody. I knew, apart from Luke, sorry to name drop, if people don't want me to say their names, let me know for future episodes. It's too late now, I've said it. But one of the lads was a friend's brother who said, I'd like to come along, can my brother come along? We were like, absolutely, more the merrier. But then, like, yourself and Josh knew each other, but you didn't know Lloyd the DM, you didn't know his brother, and other Luke didn't know anybody.
No.
And then Jamie, who's joined our group a bit later on, who I'm sure you'll get to meet at some point on the podcast and sort of through the gameplay shots you see on Instagram. He was another good friend of mine, but then knew Lloyd the DM because he used to work together, but then didn't know anywhere else. So coming together, all of us might have had different views of what D&D is. different ways to play. Like we've said repeatedly, we are narrative players.
Yeah.
We don't try and metagame. We don't try and overdo the builds and the synergies, but we try and play narratively and have narrative reasons for what we're doing. So, for example, if Jay had joined later on, and he's a very rules lawyery, a very metagame, a very combat-heavy guy, he might not have been great with the roleplay side of it. But luckily, a very good session 0. I know you unfortunately couldn't make session 0, but a very good session 0.
That's why it was a good session 0.
Yeah,
because I wasn't there.
You were there swinging about like, no, we're going to do this. But I think because we've become quite a good group of friends, and almost the boys, the lads, my wife will go, the lads are coming around Friday, are they? Like, oh, yeah, because it's Friday. So because we've gelled as a friendship group a bit, it's made the experience around the table and experience playing the game a lot better.
It has, definitely. And going off the idea that you might have, like we said, we could have had someone join the group later on who's much more involved with the rules, wants to play things by the book and enjoys playing that way, and there's nothing wrong with playing that way. I'm not saying that at all. We all enjoy it to our own mediums and different ways. But I suppose for us, this is our first sort of group. So what's probably quite nice about that is that we don't have any past experiences with other groups to compare it to. I imagine it is probably quite easy if you go from playing with like one group for a very long time and you end up being part of another one, to think, oh, what if my other group would have been like that, and my other group would have understood this. And
it's very easy to get comfortable, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And I think you put it perfectly when we first opened up point 1, is that every group is different. By changing one member of a group, that group will now operate differently. The group will operate different. By playing different characters, that group will then operate differently and play the game differently and be differently around the table. By just having a different guy be DM for the week, it's going to be a different experience, a different thing. I think a lot as well, because a lot of times people come to the game through amazing channels like ours and other things, that you might watch something and go, well, that's how you play D&D. Well, then you actually get around the table when they haven't got the cameras or the professional writers or the improv team, and you go, actually, it's not the experience I've seen on TV or on YouTube. That's not a bad thing. That's just another example of how it's different and how you have to adapt to that, and you have to sort of temper your expectations. Be excited, be enthusiastic.
100%.
But I think before you even, I think to clarify, I think all of these points can be sort of wrapped up by saying, if you know what you're sitting down to, like it's usually the DM's lead of how the game's going to go, what sort of style we're going to play. So if that's clear and upfront and honest, I think you'll have a much better time.
Well, I think you will, definitely.
Yeah.
Going to jump into number 2, because I think you slightly touched on role play and narrative sort of experiences, which we're a big part of. Yeah, we love it. We love the narrative side of it. I think me and you have probably agreed that we're quite happy if we went. Our sessions are normally 3-4 hours. I'd be quite happy if we just had 3-4 hours of character interaction. Yeah, you know what I mean. I think that's the way we like to play.
Purposeful character interaction.
Yeah, purposeful, of course, definitely. But touching on that, I know me and you are quite happy to indulge in the role play side of things, portraying our characters in a way that we would like them to be portrayed as the way we see them. I think a couple of the other guys are as well, but it's not everyone's cup of tea to start off with. Yeah. And reverting back to the idea of us being a new group, it can be quite daunting, wanting to, or maybe even feeling like you're expected to put on a voice or talk in a certain way.
Even roleplay full stop.
Or even roleplay full stop.
Going back, again, it ties in with the feeling of being comfortable. I think everyone in our group is getting better at it, is getting more comfortable with it. But that comes back to, again, the group of actually become quite good friends. If I was to go and sit in a geek retreat in a local city or something, or in another the gaming clubs are available, and with some few people I don't really know, that anticipation, anxiousness, and that shyness, and that might come back. And I think, well, hang on, a week ago I sat in my front room, being my well-spoken pirate rogue, playing the part perfectly, having the group in fits of laughter and tears of joy and sadness and in the portrayal of it. But then that might go away, and then your confidence might get knocked by the way you're playing. But in actual fact, if you just take the pressure off yourself and the people around you, and think, you just do it when you're comfortable. I think if you're sitting down to a very narrative-based, heavy role-playing game, be prepared for that. Yeah. It's unfair to go, actually, guys, we can't do the role-play theme that we wanted to do because I'm not comfortable. find the right game, find the right table to be at.
Right one. This point more for me was something I did the last time we did the session, which obviously a couple of weeks ago, because I've been away on holiday and things like that. I sort of put my foot in it, or at least I felt like I had, and I felt quite bad. There's one of the other guys in the group, and I'm not going to name drop.
Who was it?
There was an interaction between my character, one of the other player characters, and an NPC. And basically the DM had asked quite an open question as basically, what are your characters going to say? And I kind of felt like my character had maybe done quite a lot of talking interaction throughout this campaign, and I'd been quite heavy with what I'd done. And I turned to the other guy playing and I went, you talk, you do the talking. And he didn't, not that he didn't want to, I think I maybe put him on the spot.
Maybe on the spot a bit more.
I think I maybe put him on the spot a little bit, and then he kind of panicked in what he was going to say. And I, after I'd done it, I kind of thought, oh shit. You know, I felt a little bit, okay, I've put him on the spot a bit there. And that kind of is what led me to put this on the list, to how I felt. And I thought, oh, maybe I forced something there that didn't need to be forced. I'd hate to think if I forced it and he wasn't comfortable, maybe, or I've put him in the spotlight, if that hampers his want to engage in roleplay.
Or his enjoyment of the game.
Or his enjoyment, and his want to enjoy it further by engaging in roleplay later on.
Yeah. I mean, it's fair, because you also don't want to be in that position going, oh, you've not roleplayed a lot. Yeah. Because there have been situations where maybe our characters have been a little bit more vocal, a little bit more present in the but then at the same time, people in our group are a little bit more combat based, a little bit more combat focused. So you do get the ebbs and flows of what people are good at and what people are best at. Our group works well. Our group works well because
it does work really well.
Because I think the characters that or the players that are maybe less confident with the roleplay or less accustomed to it are playing characters that might not need to roleplay or might not. We have a Dragonborn who is very he was isolated for years before our campaign started, so he's not going to have that interaction with everyone. He's very much not the muscle. He's the muscle. He's more
like
the
a
enforcer.
recluse muscle, isn't he? He's that quiet guy.
He's like an introverted bouncer.
We have to give him some chewing gum to make him look hard every now and then.
We shave his head. He's a Dragonborn and he's not happy about it, but we shave his... No, but it's that... Oh, I've had another one of my epiphanies.
Ooh.
Can you remember when last week it was like being a DM without being a DM? Sometimes not role-playing can be the best form of role-play. Because if you're a character that's very shy and reclusive, might not even be able to speak.
Okay.
Sitting there and not speaking is perfectly how you would play that character.
Yeah, I like it.
On the other side, if you're playing a bard that's full of charisma and wants the attention and followed a witch around for 3 years and wrote a song about, you're going to be present and in that's a very specific character.
You sound almost as bitter as Jaskier himself.
How disappointing. It's my favourite thing he's ever said. Shocked, Ben likes The Witcher. But yeah, so your character might not warrant role-playing. So if you're the sort of the reclusey, introverted... Not smouldering. What do they call it? You know, the smouldering.
The rock.
The rock. I've got a video to show you after this. It's unrelated. While saying the rock, you've made me think of something. But yeah, so roleplay. The thing is with roleplay that I've realised over the past few months is that it's alright to say, well, don't roleplay. As a group, right, we're not going to roleplay. But I think roleplay brings so much more to the game. I'm not going to sit here and say you have to roleplay. As a group, if you want to solve puzzles and you want to do combat and that's all you want to do, go for it. But I think roleplay brings so much more inclusion and immersiveness. I love it.
Definitely makes me think my character is, for want of a better phrase, right there in front of me while we're playing. I can visualise my character, I know how he's talking and what he's trying to say, and it just sort of brings it all into one nice little package. It sort of is like that missing piece of a puzzle for me. Doesn't mean it's going to be everyone's missing piece of the puzzle. Yeah.
I think, I'm a big fan of. I think it's because it's well documented by now how I got into the game. And they are very role play based. And on that sort of last and stand role playing, and I'm not mentioning trying to again for the sake of it, but you watch them and go, sort of, you watch them and think, well, this is what they do. Do you know what I mean? And you're not going to you're not going to get a battle map, get some minis, sit around a table and it be exactly the same. We did a similar thing years ago. We wanted to start making content for Magic the Gathering, we thought, oh, you just put a camera on, you play Magic. Yeah. It's not, and we didn't have the same experience around the table as the people we were watching on camera. In the same way that I'm a massive cricket fan and I play cricket at the weekends, but I'm not going to watch England. And then, actually, I'm probably as bad as England are, to be fair. England are alright. But I'm not going to get there on Sunday and play in the same way and have that euphoric experience as Ben Stokes' Edgbaston and stuff like that. And same with anything you watch on TV. So it's important to remember that when you sit around a table, no matter who you're with, even if you're sitting around a table with Matt Mercer himself, it's not going to be what you see on Critical Role. No. So that means, coming back to the whole roleplay thing, it doesn't matter that it's not amazing. You can still enjoy it through other things.
You certainly can.
Yeah. Before we move on, recently you will have noticed by now that we have opened up our creator spotlight on the UK, and we have scoured the world of TikTok and YouTube and Instagram and Twitter and anywhere else you can think. Even people local to us that have popped out of the woodwork. That was a really bad thing to say, but we weren't aware of before, that have made themselves known, that we are going to feature in our creator spotlight. This is where we shine a light on a creator from the UK that makes D&D content, and we just want to get their name out as much as we want to get our own out. So enjoy.
Right, so I think when I was a kid, there was the cartoon on TV. I really liked that. I remember that was a big deal to me. I also, when I was younger, I was really into reading fantasy novels, so I'd read a few of the kind of Forbidden Realms books. I remember Canticle by R.A. Salvatore sticks out as one I really enjoyed. And I had an odd Legends and Lore book. I think it was like a AD&D second edition one. So that was, when I was little, I was really into the kind of lore side of it. But it wasn't until probably my early 20s that I started dabbling in a few games. Can't really remember any of those due to alcohol. But it's only really over the past year that I've kind of got serious about playing, and I'm now in about 2 to 3 games a week, depending on scheduling. I mean, all my campaigns are very special to me. They all have a place in my heart. But I think my favourite campaign at the moment is I am running a campaign for some kind of newer players, and it's people I used to play Warhammer with. And it is set in the slums of a kind of mega city, but this is it's still set kind of in Faerun, so it is a fantasy kind of Renaissance style city, but it's all based around kind of like gangs, warfare, and there's a lot of intrigue. You can't trust anybody. Everybody's out to get each other. It's a very cutthroat game, and that's a lot of fun for me as the DM to just play lots of different untrustworthy characters. I'm really enjoying that. Well, intense-wise, I had a DM'd session a couple of weeks ago, and I had a really big curry beforehand, and my guts were playing up something rotten. So that was pretty intense, just trying to hold it all together and DM. That was quite intense. In terms of best moment of my D&D adventures, it's really hard to single one out, so I'll just do the first thing that comes into my head. I recently did a one-shot with a group of pretty much murder hobos, and I was just giving them lots of items which I thought would be innocent. But they just thought of what's the evilest thing they could do with it. So I gave them the alchemy jug, and their first thought was just, let's make a load of mayonnaise and waterboard a shopkeeper with it. That was pretty good. That was cool. Best moment in D&D is, that's a difficult question. I think for me, it's not like one particular moment, but it's a thing that happens, and it's usually with newer players when they realise how expansive the world can be. So I was working with a group recently, a newer group, and they had in a previous session stolen some papers from a scribe, and a couple of sessions down the line they found out that scribe was now on the run from his employers for losing those papers. And their kind of realization that what they do in the world isn't just contained, that everything they're doing is having repercussions and affects the wider world, them realizing that is kind of like my favorite thing out of any D&D adventures. Just seeing the spark and the realization in players' eyes, I think that's top notch. So my latest character is Barley Lemonjack. He is a fairy druid, and I love the idea of, your typical mischievous fairy who's going around and like stealing odd socks and causing those kind of like pranks and stuff like that. But Barley is different in that he sees that as work, and he kind of complains about having to do that mischiefs and pranks all the time. So he would kind of go, oh, your people don't understand that, causing mischief, causing pranks, it's a full-time job, sometimes 7, 8, 9 days a week you're working, because time isn't linear in the Feywild, and there's no overtime pay. No, there's none of that, I tell you. So people will say, oh, he's swapped all the sugar and the salts around. Isn't that funny? A bit of mischief. I bet that's a laugh. But what they don't realise is I've had to go around and do that to every house in the village, and that's taken a lot of time. And it's not easy transferring salt and sugar, and then you get mixed up and it doesn't work. It's a fair amount of work, and there's no bank holidays. It's hard graft. So I've left the Feywild now. I'm going to go adventuring. I just think, do a bit of murdering, take it easy on myself. Not arsed. I'm not, I know there's been obviously Magic's got its own thing, and I think Stranger Things had a spin-off, and I think a Rick and Morty one, but for me, I mainly DM, so the excitement and the enjoyment, a lot of it comes from building my own world. Obviously using what exists already as a stepping stone, like the monsters from the Monster Manual and the player races from the PHB. But yeah, I don't think there's any existing IP out there that I am thinking, oh yeah, I really want to, I don't know, be Iron Man in D&D. Because obviously, who likes Iron Man? He's just some rich guy. No, get him out of D&D. No Iron Man in D&D. Stop it now. I think it's not a big thing, but Dark Vision, I think, needs reworking. At the moment, I think it's too overpowered. Too many races have it. I feel that the game would be improved if maybe they restricted what races had it, or just toned it down a bit. It feels very powerful at the moment, or maybe different races could have different versions. But what I find is darkness, I think, can be really interesting as an obstacle or as a way to evoke a kind of feeling or an atmosphere in an environment, to add extra challenges to combat. There's lots of things I think you can do with it, but at the moment it's just 60% of your party will probably have dark vision, and it just takes that away. And I don't like doing the whole thing where you go, oh, it's a magical darkness, and I think that's just a bit too extra. But yeah, I'd love if I could just be like, oh yeah, it's dark in here, so what are you going to do about it? I think that would make things more interesting. It's just dumb videos. It's just really, I'm just being daft on all of them. It's stuff like this.
So the first time I DM'd, I was really worried that I'd roll the dice wrong or add up some of the dice wrong. But the great thing about the screen is that it hides your rolls. Yes, so That hits, and you take 7 damage, and you're knocked prone.
Go to TikTok. You should just go to TikTok anyway, not even to find me, RPGO'd on TikTok, but it's a much nicer community than any other social media platform out there, especially for D&D. You know, you go on Twitter, people are just gonna, there's a lot of hate on Twitter. You go on Reddit, there's a lot of hate on Reddit. Yeah, most social media places you go, there's hate, but on TikTok, it's just all love. Get yourself on TikTok, enjoy yourself.
Point number 3.
Point number 3. We're not good at segues here. Don't let it be said we're not good at segues. We just don't do them.
Point number 3. So, this one is... We like to sort of pre-plan what we're talking about, what we're thinking of talking about each week. And you know, I'm not going to lie, we had a completely different list in mind 3 days ago. 3 days ago we had something completely different. It was only because of the experiences that we talk about between what we've had in the party so far, which led me to think about this point to lead to this list.
Yeah.
And that is, don't take character interaction too personally.
Yeah.
It's
Sorry.
Please go.
What I was going to say is, like, I'm going to explain the situation that we are not dealing with, because it's a game. It's not a massive situation, and by doing so, that individual is going to know what we mean.
Okay.
And I don't think this is, and I think the fact that, like, we've spoken to him, it's not a bad situation. We just wanted to clarify something.
Yeah.
So in our campaign recently, we've alluded to this in a couple of jokes recently on the episode, on the podcast. We were faced with a situation where we had a person that was going to give us a reward, reward our party. Unfortunately for him, we had already raided his house and had stolen said reward. Now, he didn't know that. He didn't know that we'd stolen it. He just knew it was gone. So Bran, me, asked him for something else. He then offered us some money, where one of the party had already stolen said money. We'd already found it. So again, we went, The situation was this, in that we were sent to this place to help this person out, to find out what had happened at this ranch, and if he was dead, we could go back to town, report that he was dead, and get some gold. I quite calmly said to this gentleman, you can reward us properly, or we can kill you and report that you're dead and get some gold. One member of the party was adamant that this was not to happen.
Yes.
Which has led to a bit of strife between Bran Morrow, captain of the Cunning Foss, quartermaster of the Forgotten Fleet, and a fucking hard bastard, and Thanatar, who is a badass fucking caster, who took exception, didn't think that we should be killing people, didn't think that this was the right thing to do, and actually confronted Bran about it in a later episode, explaining that he might have found a reason as to why Bran's crew may have abandoned him, if they have. The reason I bring this up is that it's created this sort of situation in the party where Bran and Thanatar are a bit at ends with each other.
Yeah.
There are jabs going at each other, there are jibes going at each other. The thing to remember, and the reason I can explain it to you, and I'm sure that the guy in question won't mind, is because that night I messaged him and I went, just to be clear, this is an issue between Bran and Thanatar, not me and you. And he went, yes, absolutely, I know. The reason we bring it up again is because we're playing in about an hour and a half and it's not been resolved. So we don't know what's going to happen between these.
And I think the strife that's come from it, character party-wise, is much more... There's ripples. There's ripples now through the party. Some characters, my character, has taken quite a bit of a different path to what most people probably would have expected. Going through some challenging times. But would definitely class himself as a friend of Bran's. So you can see how the interaction now between Bran and Thanatar, and I think Thanatar being a caster probably has the backing of Rayeth
other
casters within the party.
Although in that instance, Rayeth very much wanted to kill him as well.
Oh well. So these ripples are slowly travelling through the party, and I'm looking forward to seeing if there's any sort of any what the culmination of all this is, because there could be a bit of a civil war, I think.
So going on to our point then, if this civil war,
I've got carried away with what could happen.
If it breaks into this civil war, because this is where no one else in our party can see these boundaries being formed, and we've just completely fabricated it. But if let's just say, for the sake of argument, this goes down that civil war thing, and the party is forced to take sides, and it even comes to blows, so to speak. It's very important to realise that should Thanatar decide he's going to kill Bran to take away the ringleader of this path of death sort of thing, it's not Luke being pissed off. As much as his name, fuck, it's Luke. It's not Luke being pissed off with Ben. It's not Luke going, I fucking hate the way Ben's acting, I'm going to kill his character. We joke all the time about killing Josh's character.
We joke all
We're not going to kill We're not going to kill Josh's character. We're going to kill his character. But do you know what I mean? Like, in that instance then, it is Thanatar which will make that decision, right, Bran needs to be removed.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a bit big-headed in my next sentence, and I've said it to you and Josh after sessions as well. I almost feel like Bran's become the de facto leader of the group. He was a pirate captain. He's used to leading. He's used to being the guy. Almost got a bit of muscle on his shoulder. A bit of muscle as right-hand man. Hand of the king over here.
Hand of the king.
Tywin D. That's your name. So you can see situations where it would be very easy for myself and Luke to fall out.
Yes.
Because, especially, like, we've spoken in the past about how connected and how protective of your characters you get.
Yeah.
So then, if Thanatar was to kill Bran, I'd not be very happy about it. But it's important to remember that it's Thanatar killing Bran.
Yeah.
It's not Luke going, I'm going to fucking piss Ben off it.
Yeah.
And that's important. I hope you don't mind us talking about this, Luke. We've not run it past you. In fact, I'm not even going to mention it. Let's see if you watch. You do, I know you do. We'll talk about it later.
See who the real fans are. But it is, and it can boil down to not just, this was our instance, this was what's happening in our party, and it could go on to resolve itself. The characters might go down some different routes, and things might all sort of be fine. And it could come in a different form.
Yeah.
It might be someone, if we go back to our role-playing situation, somebody might be role-playing and they might just say something in conversation that's maybe quite offensive to your character or comes across a certain way. Just remember, it's not aimed at you.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that we all sit down at the table tonight and there's a moment where we all go,
we all switch on.
And we're characters.
We all switch on. I think there is. I think we do have them moments. I think we break out a few times, so we'll chat. D&D nights are on. We get together to play D&D, but we also have a catch up. We also have a good night. That point leads directly nicely into our next one. Is that literally these could have been sort of grouped together. It's very important as well. And I'm probably guilty of this as well because I want Bran's become a bit of a de facto leader. I quite like that. I'd quite like that to stay. I'd quite like Bran to be held in high regard. You remember you're playing your character. It's not what you want to do at the table. You might sit down at a table and go, I just want to kill things. Well, then play a character that wants to kill things. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? There's been situations I've sat at tables where there's been healers set up, and then healers are dishing out damage. That's fine, do a bit of damage. But if you're set up, play as a healer. Yeah. It's the same as role-playing games on computer, and video games. Set up your character how to play, but then play as that role, so to speak, if that makes sense. Yeah. That's sort of where the point we wanted to make here is that otherwise you get down that. I realise I'm rambling on, by the way. You're not really said that.
It's fine.
Otherwise you get into a situation where you might have 5 or 6 characters. You've been in 5 or 6 campaigns. It might be one shots in and out. But then you've got 5 and 6 very different characters, but they're all sort of played the same way. So you always end up playing the same. It ends up sort of the same character reskinned, which is, I don't think it's fun for anyone.
No, I don't think it really is. And like I say, it's remembering that you're playing your character. And it's something that I have to sort of adjust and get my head around a little bit. And I think you have to remember that to a standard that maybe if you have a character who has low intelligence and you are maybe and you're faced with maybe the DM throws a puzzle your way or something like that, you might sit there and think, I know the answer to this, I can do all the answers, figure it out, I know this puzzle. With your character,
I think that's where the power of the dice comes in, isn't it? That's where dice comes in.
That is, and but even maybe that level of suggestion would your character have the the know-how to maybe wonder about
to
it
realise
and realise something. It's remembering at the end of the day that you're playing your character.
Yeah.
And I like to think I know how Dee's played, and I like to think I represent him quite well.
Yeah.
He is very sombre, solemn, says it how it is, will kill things if he needs to, travelling down quite a dark path at the moment, and I like to think I represent that. I do apologise, I think I've got something in my eye. I wasn't winking at you profusely.
For all the dads out there, a little bit of a dad joke. I think just another thought is like there's nothing to stop. There's nothing to say at the beginning of every session. Don't sit there and go, "Well, Bran's going to do this session."
Yeah.
But a little recap of where, especially like, wouldn't be. Oh my god, you all right?
Yeah, it's fine. Keep going.
Stabbed in the eye.
It's fine. Keep rolling. Keep rolling.
I'm leaving this in. I'm rolling. One take. What was I saying? Yeah, I'm not saying sit there and plan your session out before you have your session, but there's nothing to stop, especially like when we've had 2 or 3 weeks away, to go round the room, or just anybody that wants to.
I fixed it.
Or anybody that wants to, sort of, where you at the minute? A little bit of a recap.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I need to stop bringing it back to things I watch on YouTube. But at the beginning of most episodes, you'll get so this is what happened in the last episode.
Mm-hmm.
Don't sit around the table and play D&D like you're recording it because you're going to lose the enjoyment out of it. But if you've been 3 or 4 weeks without a session and you sit around the table and you go, right, before we get going, where were we all at? Mm-hmm. Well, Dee's on this path. He's chosen the dark side. He's found out a little bit more about his history. Mm-hmm. I think our DM's let on a little bit more than he wanted to about Dee's history, but Bran doesn't know that. Where's Bran at? Well, Bran's having this argument. He's got the strife with Thanatar at the minute. He's in this sort of frame of mind. So then when you sit down and you go, right, we're in character. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows where they're at. Everybody knows where everybody else is at. Or as much as their character would.
Yeah.
So that if you're sitting there thinking, oh, well, actually, I'm really annoyed with fucking Grimjack. I'm going to kill him. You might not... Bran won't want to tell that to the people. So that wouldn't be a point. But the whole Bran's getting more and more frustrated and stuff like that. You can at least... It sort of helps. I quite like that idea I've just had. Big up my own ideas now. The whole. So then, as a party, you will know. Right, this is sort of the mindset of everyone. Mm-hmm. This is where we're heading.
And I think if I just revert back to our previous point of not taking character interactions personally and thinking about playing your character and not yourself, you can see maybe between the two, there's a weird grey area where if you are taking character interactions personally, does that then influence you playing your character more the way you would want a situation to be, not the way the character would want a situation to be.
So if I'm upset with the way that Luke is playing Thanatar towards Bran, I might think, fuck it, I'm just going to try and kill him.
Yeah.
Well, actual fact, fuck it, Bran's a cutthroat deadly pirate, he's probably going to think that. But do you know what I mean? It might be like, well, actually, Bran's a little bit more tactful, a little bit more charismatic in the way he's saying. He's thick as fuck, but he's got that Jack Sparrow-esque vibe, so it isn't going to be just straight up murder. Which is ironically what got Bran in this situation in the first place.
It is. It certainly is.
Yes.
So let's tie it off.
Yes.
Point number 5.
Try to be part. Oh, okay. Sorry, I'll just read that. It's really small writing down. Did I write that?
Purposely made the notes really small.
Let's get my glasses. Mate.
So we're saying try to be part of a group and allow part of the group, but also allow others to participate. So this was going back to my point earlier where I felt like I'd maybe put somebody on the spot. It was me from a genuine place thinking, my character's done quite a lot of talking and interaction. I'd kind of like to hear your character do some more. You feel like you've contributed narratively. You take the talking over. So that's where that sort of stemmed from. Me wanting to put the onus on someone else to feel like they'd contributed to what we were doing as a party. I think it's important to do that. Maybe at some points you might recognise that maybe there's homebrew elements within a campaign that you're doing, and the DM, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but maybe they've only got time. You know, we live in a very busy world. No one's got every hour of every day to write something out for homebrew. So maybe they'll focus on one person's personal story or homebrew elements before they'll focus on someone else's. And if that is the case, enjoy it. It's your character getting the love they deserve and going down whatever route. But I like to think maybe be mindful about that. There might be others thinking, well, I'd like my character to have some involvement in something. So maybe bring other people in where you can.
It's a bit like I mentioned earlier about this sort of. I feel personally like Bran's become a bit of de facto leader. an important thing I'm going to have to remember going forward, that there is no leader. There is no de facto leader. It's just that from the roleplay aspects, brands become more apparent.
Yeah.
Others. The thing I want to talk about in terms of this point is just taking it away from the characters a bit. You've sat around a table, you're excited, you've written this character, it's session 1, you're really excited, you're in a group full of lads, and then one of them is just over the top of everyone else. I'm going to do this, I'm going to, this is what I want to, and it's like, all of a sudden, I'm not having that much of I'm not enjoying myself because I'm not getting to do anything. Somebody over there wants it to be all about them, and just to stress, this isn't about anyone particular. This is an example, in case everyone goes, "Well, he's slagged off everyone else in this episode." Fucking hell, Jay's got a lot to answer for. Just an example. But if it was me, if I was every time we get to an NPC, we get to a town, we get to an encounter, if Bran was just loud, over the top, we're going to do this, everyone else would not enjoy themselves around the table. And a group like that won't come back. No. I don't think you'll come back, personally.
No, I think it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because everybody wants to be involved.
Yeah.
Everyone would like to be involved. And it's just maybe understanding. That's a good word.
That's the name of this episode.
It's
understanding.
It's maybe getting to grasp with the fact that you might need to temper your own levels sometimes. But one of the nice things we've got about a group is, as we've mentioned, we're all friends.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's anything that would erupt within us too much until somebody have just a polite discussion about it. And maybe if you are with a new group, it might be daunting, and it is daunting to talk to people and to feel like you're challenging someone.
Especially like, I know I just joked about Jay, but Jay's joined up. People that have joined a new group. Not only has Jay joined a new group, he's joined late. Yeah. He's joined with people he doesn't know.
Yeah.
He drives 30 miles to be here.
Yeah.
Every Friday, legend. It's very daunting for him to come in. It'd be very easy for him to come in and be loud and I'm going to make a presence. At the same time, don't be too quiet. Don't sit there quietly in the corner because then you will get missed and get forgotten. It's about finding that balance and finding your place in the group. Like I said, in our group there is no de facto leader.
No.
It's just Bran's characteristics that he's very leader-like. In that there is no muscle on Bran's shoulder, but D is very, I'm just going to fucking kill you. Yeah. You know what I mean? And like you said, with Bran and D have that relationship so that Bran knows he can rely on D. So you get that de facto experience, but then there's nothing to say that that's going to stay. And if me and you together were like, well, it's all about Team Brandy now, the rest of them will just get annoyed.
Exactly.
So that's it. It's important. It's important. Like I said, all of these points can be summed up by saying find the right group for you.
Yeah.
Find the right group. I'm very aware in some places that in order to play D&D, you need players.
Yeah.
Well, there's only 4 players of D&D in my village. Right, okay, in that situation, you might have to make some sacrifices in order to play the game that you want to love. The thing that I wanted to say about our group that you just mentioned is that we are all friends like that. I think it's amazing. I'm a bit sorry now.
Oh.
It's amazing that we've all come together through this game that we love.
Yeah, it is.
I think, I'm friends with everyone. I'm the guy that pulls us all together. Well, I did physically. I went, right, do you want to play D&D? 7 o'clock, Friday.
Big net every time someone left their house.
Yeah. You can't see down below. Joe's actually shackled to this chair.
I am.
He wheeled out to do a recording every Friday.
The holiday thing's a lie.
Yes. He'd been bad. That got weirdly weird. Yeah, but we've come together over this game that we love, and it's fantastic. I genuinely have a really good time every Friday night. And what's turned out from we'll have a session as and when we can to every Friday night without reason, without excuse. Obviously, people have got lives.
Yeah.
But I'm excited for tonight. We've got a first proper session tonight in
a
few weeks.
And I think if you wrap all these 5 points could be. We've probably diluted one big point down into 5 points here. Yeah. But if you encompass them all together, really, they should be the points that we've gone through. If you think about them in the way that we spoke about them, you should be right with any group that you're with.
Yeah.
It is daunting playing with new people. I think it's even daunting playing with people you know. In some ways, that might be more daunting.
Yeah.
Having to portray yourself as a character in front of people that you know.
Yeah.
If you haven't done that sort of thing.
I used to have a theory that when I was younger, we used to go camping a lot.
Yeah.
And I used to go and enter like talent shows and that. I thought I could sing for a bit. Definitely can't. And it was a lot more daunting. You guys asked me to sing a song tonight. I'm not doing it. I cannot perform in front of people I know. Put me in front of a holiday camp full of 400 strangers I'll never see again. Brilliant. Let's do Lady Marmalade. Was dressed in... No, you don't need to know about that. But that's where we're at.
Amazing.
Thank you. So, wrapped up? Anything else there? We're good?
No, I think we've covered it. I think that's the important point, is that altogether we've got like a nice sort of thing that, like I said, we've diluted it down. But really what we're looking for here is just people, be yourself, understand the people around you. And I'm going to link it now back to well-being, what we started in the beginning.
He's a pro. He's an absolute pro.
Think about it as you go into a situation, and think about how you'd want to be treated. Think about how, if somebody treat you, there's my Lincoln G coming out, in a certain way, how you'd feel. And it is about well-being. You need to think about not only the people around you, but about yourself.
Yeah.
And if you've got that sort of open-minded approach to feel maybe a bit empathetic in the way that you might, and you can put yourself in someone else's boots, okay, that's why they've done that. That's why they're behaving that way. It's not aimed at me, it's aimed at my character.
And I think if you're ever in a situation where you're sat around a table, whether it's session 0, session 1, session 200, and you don't feel like you're enjoying it, and you feel singled out, and you feel like somebody is taking it personally, you're well within your right to say something. Yeah. You're well within your right to say, I'm sorry, I won't be here next week. Yeah. So...
Amazing. But thank you guys for tuning in again this week.
Actually, and
we'll see you again soon.
See you later.